Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episodes, and this is very important. This is all about aging equipments. In Asia Pacific, especially Malaysia, and different countries in Asia Pacific like Indonesia, Vietnam, everyone actually thinking about aging projects. And today we have our world famous speaker, Professor Edward, Professor Ching, Professor in practice, Mr. Marshall. So hopefully our discussion will be very interesting and very helpful. Professor Edward, what you want to share with us specifically on aging equipment, and we want to learn more what's going on inside industry.
Well, I want to make some thanks for this program. I want to make a couple of general points, and then my colleagues here can get into maybe some more of the details. There's an interesting analogy when we look at the question of aging equipment, end-of-life diagnostics, and those kinds of things. And it's with solid waste management. And you might say, well, what is the connection there? Well, it's interesting. When I was a little kid here in the United States, one of the ways I made money was I collected aluminum cans because there was a market for recycling aluminum. This wasn't a government mandate or anything like that. It was just that companies, rather than having to go and dig up the bauxite in Jamaica or whatever, found it cheaper to basically have a bunch of aluminum cans that had been used and to recycle them. There was a market incentive to do that. There were little kids like me who would run around and collect these cans. We had the same thing, by the way, for glass bottles. And so kids made money on that, and they recycled these sort of things. Because there was a market for it. Now, move to another thing, to the bigger issue of solid waste, the kind of things that people put in garbage, and you have whole big trucks that collect this sort of stuff. There was a question of what do we do with that sort of thing? And that's been a little bit more problematic. Part of the reason is a lot of jurisdictions, including ones that I live in or lived in, basically say, well, let's try to have a recycling plant for these things. And in some cases it works and it's economical, but in a lot of cases it doesn't. For example, where I used to live as a kid, since we're talking about me as a kid or a child, we had a dump. It was just a big open area where the garbage trucks and the trash trucks just dumped stuff. It was huge and kind of messy, and it didn't smell very good. But what they did with that dump is, because they have now developed very good seals for burying things, right now, if you go to that place where I was a kid, it's beautiful football and baseball fields and picnic areas and so forth. It's nice grass and trees and all. What they did was simply bury the solid waste because it was more economical to do that. It wasn't endangering safety because of the seals, the advances in seals. And so that was the way they did it. Again, economics is the big question here. Is it better to recycle or to do something else with these materials? So let's go now to equipment. Well, there's a big market out there right now for recycling these. I'm holding up my smartphone right now. And if you go online, you'll see a lot of advertisements, or if you go to any major tech store in the United States, and this is probably the case in other countries, you'll see discounts for recycled, or they call it refurbished smartphones. Because what happens is, for example, this fall, the new iPhone comes out, and I might go from my Android here to an iPhone. If I do that, what I'll do is I'll say, here's my old phone. They will give me $700 for my old phone. I will take that and I will use it to, as part of a down payment on a new phone. So there's a big market for recycling this stuff. We don't want to basically just throw this beautiful piece of equipment away, do we? We want to do something with it, and there's a market for it. It's economical to refurbish my old phone, sell it to somebody else for a discount price. We reuse the stuff. Everyone wins. Now, there are some other issues that, again, are more problematic, just as it is with solid waste. And a lot of that concerns so-called renewables. And I have major papers I can give your audience if any of them are interested. For example, the big windmills that you see to generate energy are very, very difficult to recycle. They're made of toxic materials. You can't just take and burn them. That would not be very good for the environment. You don't want to destroy the environment, certainly. There's, I can give you lots of citations of jurisdictions that say, hey, these windmills are a great idea. And then what happens is when they have to get rid of them, well, we can't bury them. We can't do this with them. We can't do that. In other words, there's a real serious problem of what you do with these things. Even worse is with the solar panels. Again, in a lot of cases, they can be very efficient for certain things, and we all know that. However, the recycling and is a very, very serious problem, because in these cases, especially the solar panels, they're very, very toxic, a lot of toxic materials, and batteries are even worse because of the material. Now, hopefully, we will have some breakthroughs in the future where we will have these things that are but you can renew them in the same way that you can renew a smartphone. But right now, when you talk about we talk about renewables, they're not really that environmentally friendly. And that's a very, very serious problem. What happens when, it's the end of life for this wonderful supposed renewable, when in fact, it's going to really harm the environment. The Asian Pacific countries have a very interesting opportunity. I bring this up. It seems like it's a little bit off topic, but I don't think it is. As Sharif knows, there's a story that came out a couple of days ago that Elon Musk, who's an incredible entrepreneur, he's like, he's the next Steve Jobs. He does Tesla. He did PayPal. He's, doing SpaceX. He's doing everything pretty much. Is coming to Indonesia. He's got some interest in Indonesia now. And I suspect that his interest is in the whole Asian Pacific area, because China is more and more going to be problematic because of the geopolitical issues, especially with Taiwan. So a lot of American companies wisely are looking to what other countries in Asia can we partner with? Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Bangladesh, hopefully, and the like. And so these kinds of issues are going to come up about what's the best way to have certain kinds of enterprises in Asian Pacific countries. Is it to take and renew old equipment? Is it to upgrade old equipment? Is it to bring in new capital equipment? For example, many of I think the majority of the smartphones or the iPhones come from China. And I suspect that the Apple folks are looking to diversify, because if there's a war with Taiwan, China can simply say, well, guess what? If you have sanctions against us, you guys aren't going to get any iPhones. So I'm sure that Apple and other companies are saying, well, maybe we can, Apple already has some operations in Vietnam, and I'm sure they're going to start looking around for other places. But again, if you're listening, if you're part of the audience here in the Asian Pacific area, think about these issues in terms of in terms of economics, not in terms of ideology or all, but what works best economically. We don't want to renew equipment if it costs twice as much and in the long run is maybe even environmentally harmful, if we can simply get new equipment that's even better. But again, there's also the possibility, as I say, of taking old equipment. I'm just using a smartphone as an example, and renewing it so that you're not wasting it. You're not throwing this into a dump where it can have bad environmental impacts. And by the way, this issue, this whole thing goes for other countries as well, not just Asia Pacific. It goes for Latin America. It goes for even Africa. So those are kind of my general framing remarks about this discussion of what do you do with old equipment? Do you renew it, or do you throw it away, or do you do something in between? And I'll probably have to sign off fairly soon, but those are my remarks, and hopefully your audience has gained some insights from that.
Thank you, Professor Edward, for your excellent analysis on this topic, and especially, yes, Asia Pacific excited about Elon Musk. If this kind of big companies, they collaborate with this ecosystem, definitely new opportunity will come, new innovation will happen, And most importantly, this way, that is actually objective of World Talent Economic Forum, that how we can collaborate more with developed world and can make human progressions. Very interesting, and thank you that first you sent me this news, and then I read it. It's very exciting, and thank you for all of your support. Professor Ching, what do you want to add for today's discussion?
Well, let me give a perspective on this whole problem. Okay, the problem is start with the fires in California. Okay, mainly because PG&E did not maintain their wires, for a long time, and it just forced people to look in this aging problem, and it involves something like most important item is switch gear. Okay, we not only we have to replace all the switch gears, and there are many new products come online, so we need to add new switch gears. So that causes problem. Okay, that's the origin of this thing. And for people who believe otherwise, I can tell you, you go to China, everything's so new. There's no aging problem. Okay. Aging equipment should not be a problem if it's maintained. Okay. And the problem is, this the problem become, some people say, like Edward pointed out, most people think that the solution is money, economics. I disagree. Okay, I represent pole science. The problem is knowledge. The problem has to be solved by knowledge, not by, this is very, very simple. The reason PGA did not maintain is we live in a money-oriented society. People only look for short-term monetary returns. So maintenance sort of does not contribute to this return. Okay, they just cut cost. Okay, if there's sufficient maintenance, aging equipment should not be a problem. What they need to do is to look at everything from the point of view of the solution value, which does not exist in today's society, because people rather join this idea of just make money and forget about the long-term consequences. So what I'm suggesting overall is this, okay? Before the young people especially considering science, they should look at our pole science. Before they go into the current money-oriented society, they should take a look at our knowledge-oriented society. I just finished the summary overview of this knowledge-oriented society. Okay, and even in this small subject, we can, the problem is in there. Okay, just no valuation, no consideration, no long-term consideration. Everybody's driving toward this money-oriented situation, and all these billionaires, I think they are going in the right direction. Okay, I wouldn't say they are going in the wrong direction. You need a money-oriented society to replace the political-oriented society. Then finally, now we have so many crises, none of which the society can solve. We need to solve them with knowledge. It's not going to be solved with money. They have so much money. They have proven that all these crises we have, none of which is solvable by money. So basically, that's what I think is most important. Other than that, I might also add there's a parallel between the aging equipment and the end of life situation. You can maintain your life in such a way that you would live a healthy and long life, or you can you can have heart transplant replacement. Okay, this up to the person to think through this. This involve all of us, so that would be a much more urgent problem for on this topic of aging equipment. Okay, the age of humans. Okay, now the baby boomer between 60 to 75 years old. These people need to start to think about this, and it's identical, similar problem. You see, maintenance versus replacement. Even your own body, which I study a great deal. You can have. There's two ways that the rejuvenation starts. One is reprogramming, the other replacement, both of which I claim to be from my epigenetic lifestyle. And the cause of it is DOMS. There is a term called DOMS. DOMS is delayed onset of muscle soreness. In other words, you exercise, you stimulate your muscle. After 3 days, the muscles start to rebuild. There are two ways to rebuild. One is through cell division. Okay, cell division, the best cell division, which will cause not only rejuvenation, will also cause replacement of old parts, senescent cells, is a satellite stem cell division. Okay, there's very few satellite cell, stem cell in our body. Okay, for example, the brain, recently they used to think there's no stem cell in the brain, but now they find there's 800 stem cells in the brain. You see, there's still a certain amount, but my feeling is, the replacement is the only way to have immortality, to have age reduction. While this reprogram will only give you health improvement. So there's many evidence that animals can live permanently, and this permanent life is through replacement by stem cells. For example, the moon jellyfish. Okay, and several other things which does not seem to deteriorate through age. And that would correspond to whatever we're talking here. We need to have maintenance. We need to have replacement for our aging equipment. And it should all be calculated inside the solution of value. Okay, the world need to go into the age of knowledge, go beyond science into social science, which take into consideration all the factors, while science generally just isolates things for particular, finite time, controlled environment. So we can no longer stay here and stay in the money-oriented society, which many of our billionaires have proven that money cannot buy them things they want, and the society itself faced with crisis. All the crises are open-ended and with unlimited complexity, and they have to be solved by knowledge, not by science. Science is very limited. You see, it can only provide some inputs to all this problem, not output. The output need to be calculated. And with all the input, without the relationship to relay all this input, you cannot calculate the output. So this aging equipment it's really a good case for people to think the overall picture of our society. That there are things are aging and how we handle those things. Okay, so basically that's my
Thank you.
report.
Mr. Marshall, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I think today we're listening to two different facets of the same problem. It's like looking at a coin, heads and tails. So what Edward brought up was the accurate description in his introductory remarks, and the same thing with Hugh. Both different, same coin. And from a practical point of view, the world is changing as we speak. Sure, there's oil and gas and things like that. But in terms of circularity, that's the term. They take end of life products, both at the, like Hugh talked about, the switch systems, and then the consumer side that Edward talked about, which is beginning to see that this is shifting. End of life products also correlate with another term called end of service. And they're both economic models, essentially, not just production models. So the concept, the classic example, as Ed pointed out, is that you have a phone, iPhone 8, and you want to upgrade it to an iPhone 13. What's the difference between them? There's some differences, but are they significant? It depends on the generation. From a practical point of view, how does one take all that waste and turn it into a circular economy? Doing it practically in two locations, one in Guadalajara, Mexico, and one in Maui, Hawaii, where we're taking what we're talked about, solid waste. So those facilities have locations called municipal solid waste, MSW. And it's exactly as Ed described it. A lot of it's a combination of both organic, inorganic waste and metals and other materials. So what we're doing is we're using a thermal conversion technology, and we actually take that waste, and we don't even have to separate it. We blend it, and we can turn it into three things. One is syngas, or pyrogas, as they call it in Europe, which can be used to generate electricity. We also create thermal energy out of it, which is also used for a lot of different purposes. Can create cooling, can create heating, can be used in agricultural processes to keep crops cool. And then, of course, the most important and most valuable element that produces is a material known as char. And char has a lot of uses. If you ever read the book Burn by Albert Bates and Kathleen Draper, you'll know that there's 100,000 markets just for biochar alone. And there's actually more. The problem right now that is in existence, but that we're solving, is scalability. That can you process enough waste in a fast enough time? And we've solved that problem. And so I'm actually making a plea to everybody that out there that has that wants to participate in something like this to reach out to Sharif, because Sharif and our team here around the world and the entire World Talent Economy Forum are looking to create joint ventures in both in the private and public sector to be able in the developing world. It could be Indonesia, it could be Malaysia, it could be Africa, and what we're able to do is turn those into profit centers for the people that live in that area, and they're all based upon, by the way, the 17 Sustainability Development Goals. So we achieved those goals. Our company alone meets 14 of the 17 Sustainability Development Goals, and we've been authorized and recognized by a verifier in Europe called the Climate Bond Initiative that we meet those. And it's a big deal. Most companies, they're lucky if they meet one, let alone 14. So from a circular economy point of view, it's possible today. The technology exists, the capability exists, and the funding exists to be able to bring about the achievement of getting end of use life approach into a viable opportunity for a lot of people. So that's my opening remarks, Sharif, and I maybe my only remarks because I'm in a car right now, so I might lose you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We have our partners, Ageless Partners. I believe he's a CEO from Ageless Partner. Can you hear me?
Hey, Sharif, how you doing?
Yes, I'm fine. How are you? Thank you for joining today's sessions. So we are discussing about aging equipment. So what you want to add for today's dialogue?
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. This is my first time here on StreamYard, actually, so it's interesting. So aging equipment. I mean, there's so much equipment coming out nowadays, and I think the first one I think of is this red light therapy device. Actually, I actually have one. It's just this device that just shoots red light on your skin, and more and more research is coming out saying that it kind of optimizes your mitochondria. Um, so that's one piece of equipment I think of, and I think all the like diagnostic slash measuring. I like that book, by the way. The all the equipment that's for like measuring things. I think that's critical for aging because really quantifying things is very difficult, and really, in the past, you're kind of guessing. You take a supplement or you do something, and you don't really know for sure if it worked. So now we're starting to have the tools to actually be able to measure those things. Like say it's a glucose monitor as an example, something basic. But really any tool that you could measure and get feedback. Another thing would be like biohacking equipment. So say you're doing a test. I'll give the example of Viome. Viome essentially does two tests. One of them primarily for the microbiome, but it also looks at your genes as well. So you can do like a blood test and a stool test, and using now in this case the equipment's kind of basic, but you are sending that out to a lab and then getting information back. It's all about using the tool or the equipment to better yourself, to increase your resilience, to increase your ability to make better decisions. Um, Other equipment. I think equipment and tools going hand in hand. As an example, we have a tool on our website actually on agelesspartners.com. It's a biohacking tool. You can use it for different things to give yourself sort of an information edge. That I think that's really what it's about. You can use it to go on there and enter any compound, and it'll tell you your average change in life expectancy that you should expect for that compound based on studies that have been done on other species. So there's definitely going to be error around that estimate, and you don't know for sure. But if you put in something like glucose, you're going to see a negative expectation. If you put in something like nicotinamide, you're going to see a positive expectation. There's a bunch of other pieces of equipment out there. Bigger ones would be like the hyperbaric chambers. You can just sit in these oxygen chambers and get essentially magnified oxygen. You're getting more oxygen, and there's actually new studies coming out showing now that doing that is going to have all these benefits, from increasing the lengths of your telomeres and other benefits. And other things would be like cryo chambers. So that would be a tool that I see as an anti-aging tool, or really just taking like an ice bath. I don't know if you call a bathtub a tool or not, or equipment, but really there's a lot out there. It's really figuring out what you need and what you're trying to do, and the amount of equipment too is increasing every day. I'd say it's there's only going to be more and more as more discoveries are made and more things are developed. So I'd say that's kind of my initial comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Edward. Like this aging industry is a lot of actually investment happening, a lot of innovation happening, research and development related work actually happening right now. Can you give us some real example, like my friends that from the industries, which will helpful for Asia Pacific people?
Mhm. Okay. Well, first I'll just make a comment, by the way. In terms of aging equipment and diagnostics and keeping it going, yes, I completely agree with the prior speaker. It's one of my top issues right now. In fact, I'm going to be contacting Aubrey DeGray today about a conference we're putting on right now. So, hey, we should connect, okay? Anyway, this is the most important equipment that I want to continue to renew. And I'm sure that goes for my colleagues here as well. But let me make a couple of comments, and you wanted to talk about examples. Let me make a note here about that. I think it is important when you look at, and to some of the previous comments, you have to look at the short term and the long term. And you do have to, look at it in economics. Economic actors usually are knowledge actors. They're trying to use their knowledge of the market, where technology is going, what the most efficient way of dealing with things are. Knowledge is always involved in the market. And in fact, it's the market pricing that gives us the knowledge about where we can best invest in the future. I want to notice another thing, because we talk about renewable equipment. And you talk the California example is interesting, where they didn't keep the equipment up. I'll give you an even better example, perhaps. Here in Washington, D.C., we have a subway system, a metro system, as we call it. It was started around the mid-1970s. People like myself back at that time said there's a problem, and that is this. These are basically government-owned operations, and the tendency is for the government-owned operations not to focus on the important maintenance. It's easier basically to give, big salary increases to the workers, and of course we want workers to be well paid, and to ignore maintenance because, well, that's going to be in the future. Someone else will take care of that. People like me for decades were saying that's a big problem with some of these government-run facilities and infrastructure. Sure enough, for the last 5 or 6 years in Washington, D.C., our metro system has been falling apart. We've had to shut down lines for months to do basic maintenance. We've had fires in our metro system. We've had all sorts of problems. And again, people like me were pointing that out because you didn't have a market, a real market, where there was an incentive to keep up the equipment, as Marshall was pointing out, and with the California example. So that's why I'm very big on entrepreneurs handling these sorts of issues as much as possible, because they have an incentive to use every single bit of equipment, every single input in the most efficient way. I want to give you another cute kind of example, 2 little examples. I wish I had brought this with me. If you look at a furnace, certainly in most of the United States, they have these things called a furnace filter, okay? And imagine this is a piece of metal and it has a whole bunch of holes in it, and then between it has some sort of a material that filters out bad dust and air and things like that. And you take a look at these filters. I wish I had brought one with me. There's one in my furnace room. A piece of metal, bunch of holes in it, sandwiched between is this material that filters out bad stuff. Well, where did that piece of metal come from? You know where it comes from? The people who manufacture soft drinks punch out the tops to the soft drinks, boop, 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 and they take these little pieces of metal and they make the tops to the soft drink bottles. And then they take this other piece of metal, they don't throw it away. They're not going to throw this thing away. They basically sell it to the people who make the filters. And I can give you lots of other examples like that, how industry basically, they want to use every single thing. They want to get money out of every single thing. That's how they're using their knowledge, okay? So I just want to stress the importance of markets. But again, in terms of the Asia Pacific area, it really is going to depend on 2 things. I agree about the importance of knowledge, but it's got to be knowledge about how to make something that's economical, safe, and meets all of those requirements. So whether you recycle a particular piece of equipment, I would completely agree with Marshall about the importance of maintaining equipment so that it doesn't go bad. This phone can probably last another 5 years. I might trade it in because I've got some things I need on another phone, but these things can last for years. And so that's what you in the Asia Pacific area, especially as people like Elon Musk look at how can I invest here, you're going to have to look at these issues, and you have to look at them from an economic perspective in the widest knowledge base, and not just in a very, very short term base. Because remember, it's not a matter of knowledge. If we say, well, we have we know that we can continue to use something for many years, or this is a good way to produce it. But if it ends up costing 3 or 4 times as much, people aren't going to use it. They're not going to buy as many. You're not going to have as much production. You're going to forego a lot of the innovation that goes with these sorts of developments. And there are going to be problems. So you have to look downstream as well. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm going to have to jump off in a few minutes here. But this is a very interesting topic. And as I say to the Asian Pacific folks, you really have an opportunity now with these great investors like Musk looking at the area. So you're going to have to think about what's the best strategic way of doing things. New equipment. I expect, by the way, for a lot of these companies, what's going to happen is, for example, if Apple starts moving a lot of their operations out of China, they're going to probably build a lot of cutting edge factories and facilities in places like Indonesia, Malaysia, and so forth. The same thing for Musk. If he comes and starts building, it's going to be new stuff. But it's going to be new stuff, I think, because especially Elon is interested in renewables. It's going to be new stuff that they're going to keep up, and they're going to do it the right way. So anyway, those are my
Thank you, Professor Edward.
Really good point.
Yes.
A quick comment on that, real quick.
Yes, sure. Not you can take your time, and especially we want to know more about your ageless partners. Yeah.
Oh, okay, sure. No worries. Thanks, Edward and Sharif. One comment I was thinking about. There is this economic element to aging that I think these bigger governmental agencies and bigger players really don't realize. And it really comes down to economics. And it was Andrew J. Scott who wrote this paper that basically laid out that if we can increase the health span of every single person in the U.S. Just by 1 year, so we're talking just a single year. Now it has to be a healthy year. You're going to have more people in the workforce, less people to take care of, less strain on the healthcare system. And he lays out his model, and it comes out to like 3.8 trillion for 1 year. Now, 3.8 trillion, you're like, that's a huge amount of money.
More than I make.
That's more than anyone makes for, yeah. I mean,
except for Elon.
Except for Elon, he's the only one who could make more than that. But definitely, I mean, in over 10 years, that's 38 trillion. And really that economic incentive, I feel like is not, hasn't quite hit everyone yet.
Yeah. Hey,
very interesting.
I've got to sign off. I put my contact information in there. Check me out on LinkedIn or something, because we need to talk. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Edward. Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes, we want to know more about your company, about your organization, especially today's topic is aging equipment, and your company Ageless Partners. So what you want to share with our audience about your company?
Absolutely, sure. So with Ageless Partners, there's really two underlying themes. One of them is really to accelerate our path to an ageless future. So bring us to the point where we have age reversal technology as quick as possible. We think about these technologies and we see them being developed, and on some levels they have gotten faster, the development. If you look in the 1990s, things were much slower than they are here in the 2020s. So there is this acceleration that's happening, but it's still really not happening fast enough. When you look at the numbers, aging and age-related diseases are really the number one killer on the planet. There's nothing else that's actually killing more people. So we're losing a lot of people, and it's not just it's lives, it's knowledge. Those people have experience, and really a lot of them they want to live. So we think that these bigger agencies and even smaller players should be helping to move that forward. So that's kind of one of our main goals. Second one would be to help people to decipher the anti-aging code. So really just understanding what aging is a little bit, at least to the point where they have an actionable insight. And there's really hundreds of things people can do today to slow down and even reverse their aging. But a lot of the information is so complex, it's so obscure, and it's coming out so quickly that it's really hard for the average individual to understand it and actually take advantage of it. So we have information on our website. We're constantly researching things to help people to understand it. And we provide coaching services as well. So you can set up, this is all kind of being developed right now, but you could set up a one-on-one meeting with an ageless coach or even a workshop as well. We also have a lifestyle guide as another product on there too. It's all on the website. But we're looking into several different paths and really just looking at like how do we make this happen a little bit faster. When we see these forecasts on how long we're out before these technologies are going to be available, we think it's too long. And not only that, we know that it can happen faster. We've seen things happen faster. When you talk to drug developers, the process is so long and there's so many barriers. It's a little bit crazy when you look at those timelines to actually bring something from ideation to actually deploying that drug. But we know the U.S. can develop and deploy a therapeutic in less than 18 months. We saw it with COVID. So really, a lot of people might say, "Oh, well, that was a time of war," but I think that there's kind of this perception shift that needs to happen, across the world, and in particular in the U.S., to realize that there is lives being lost. So it is kind of a time of war. And we get a lot of the counters like, "Oh, well, aging is natural," but there's a lot of natural things that we just don't want, and that being like cancer and these other diseases. And there's plenty of things that are natural that people just don't want at all. So that's kind of what we're about and what we're building. And we're really just looking for sort of just more people to come in the space, more partners, and there's many potential paths to get us where we need, and we're trying to find that that right one. So it's a little bit of info.
Thank you. This is really great discussion, especially aging equipment is a new thing for Asia Pacific, especially for the developing nations. I want to go for the concluding remarks for today's sessions. First, I request Professor Ching.
Yeah, okay. Well, we go from aging equipment to all sorts of areas, which is not related to the California fire, which I personally experienced. Aging equipment is just an example of aging knowledge. Okay, so we need to upgrade our knowledge, which is currently dominated by science. And it's difficult from the money-oriented society to go into knowledge-oriented society unless knowledge can itself overcome money, or we have a major crisis. Okay, speaking of crisis, okay, the first thing the most experienced crisis by human beings is the financial crisis. So here, Milton Friedman is the champion of free market. But the market is not free. Okay, it is regulated by mathematics in the form of non-verbal laws of nature. In social science, such as the invisible hand or the supply-demand model, however, which is not quantifiable so far. So we need to quantify that. You see, basically, I have seen that we could not solve the saving loan crisis. We couldn't solve the subprime woe, which are accumulating into the next greater depression. Okay, so all this talk is useless unless somebody find a way to solve this coming financial crisis. And our organization, Pole Science, have predicted both savings loan and subprime woe. And the key point is very simple. Somebody who has to have a method to detect overvaluation. In other words, the Federal Reserve is increasing interest rate, and the market price of real estate is pushed up by cost. Okay, it's all set in. So in other words, the real estate market will go up gradually, and the interest will also go up gradually. And the Bernanke wants it to go fast. I don't think Bernanke, knows. He didn't know about the old crisis, and this time The problem is detecting overvaluation. It's not how fast you increase the interest rate. You got to know what effect the interest rate increase has on the price, which nobody has. And we use our solution value to predict both savings and loan and the subprime world, and we should be able to tell them exactly the time when the market is overvalued. Then they should apply interest rate, all their tools to stop the continued increase of real estate price. The problem with increased real estate price is it eventually will lead to a crash, which will be like a greater depression, as some of my friends predicted. And so the future is not predictable. But Doc Casey, my friend Doc Casey, is predicting greater depression. This is his term. But if we can stop it, then there won't be Great Depression. If we cannot stop it, okay, so let's wait for the Greater Depression. The advantage of depression crisis is that it would create people who will enter into the field, such as Milton Friedman, Kenneth Arrow, Gerald Blue, who are Greater Depression economists. They are encouraged by the 1929 Great Depression. And in the future, right now, I think the health crisis, COVID-19, is encouraging young people to go into the health profession, like our friend here, ageless partners. Okay, but overall, there's something very wrong about all this. Okay, there is no solution economy. They claim there's solution, but there's no solution. We need to collect all the data we collected into a form that we can calculate the price, but there is no such a system. Okay, and the people just keep claiming they have that system. Okay, but anytime there's a crisis, nobody come out to show us what they have, except me. You see, I was the most published author in the subprime world. You see, the Treasury Department published 6 articles in 4, and I have 3 of them. Okay, so I have most. Okay, they all together 100 submitted, 6 published. They published 3 of mine. Okay, now the next one is coming, so I don't know if I should participate. If I don't participate, then the society will produce great economists. Okay, if I participate, then they would, they will not be great economists. But temporarily, the society might be saved. Okay, basically, I suggest quantitative easing, to solve the last subprime woe. Okay, and also Milton Friedman, Bernanke, we all for this. So we sort of carry it out. But I have another half difficult proposal is to invest money into high return, innovative project, so that the society will become wealthier, increase the social value. Okay, while quantitative easing will decrease social value, it just gives to the poor people. Okay, so it's the lowest rate of return. You got to balance with high rate of return. They just took the easy half, forgot about the difficult half. Okay, then this time it's coming again. So, and also it's almost identical. Look back into the real estate price chart, it looks just like same thing repeating itself, except bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. So basically there is, from pole science point of view, there is no social science. Okay, you got all this data, but you got to relay all this data. Okay, mathematically. So in other words, you want to be in social science, you got to know mathematics because it's really complex. Okay, then about life science for our ageless partner. Okay, the life science does not have a foundation. Okay, basically life science should be the programming and the documentation of DNA. Okay, that's a computer science problem based on logic. Okay, you got all this data. Okay, where you put this data? And how do you have a solution? Do you have a final, relationship who relate all the inputs like ageless. How do you got all these methods? Or can you relay all this method into one system that will translate into reduction of aging? We don't have that. We're very far from that. We don't even have a foundation. That's what I said. Okay, the foundation is a complete automated system we proposed. And I got rejected by the journal Nature. I keep telling them they don't have a foundation. They need to calculate. They need to look at DNA, which is 0, 1, 2, 3. You see, it's almost identical to our complete automated software. So we provide a foundation, and they don't need it. They don't want it. You see, so mathematical training is required for social science, and logical training is for life science. And to be more practical, you see, I have been looking into ageless situation because Marshall, myself, we are sort of should be interested in our Edward. We should be interested in our age, our health. Okay, I've been looking into this, and I look at other people's contribution, including ageless. You people can look at search me, and I can send you some of my proposals. You see, you look at this, and I can see very little thing they say can help me. Okay, I'm proposing epigenetic lifestyle. While most of their drugs, they propose they would be good short term. Okay, which again fit into the money-oriented society to get people to do it for short term. Okay, but those I just propose this word, which probably is terrible for the economy. That is, I propose anti-epigenetic. Okay, you get the drug, you take the drug will interfere with your epigenetic process. Okay. It will, on the long term, it will come back to stop you from. So I haven't really get too much benefit from contribution of short-term considerations. On the other hand, I have followed my epigenetic lifestyle. Before COVID-19, I was able to reduce my age, biological age, by 28 years, from 76 to 48. Okay. And this is measured by glycan age measurement, glycan age. Now I realize glycan age just measure the health, my health. It did not measure my age. Okay, because my health can go up and down every year. After 2 years of lockdown, I feel my health just dropped down. Okay, I couldn't keep up. In order to reduce the age, one have to look in something like moon jellyfish, okay, which continue to live almost permanently with the replacement of old genetic cell with stem cells. Okay, so people need to come and measure my stem cells. I believe after lockdown, my stem cell density has increased. Which will cause my age to come down, and this is basically some of the small suggestions. I really wish people would study more logic and try to look, life science as a subject of logic.
Sure. Thank you, Professor Ching. Mr. Marshall, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Well, Sharif, I've got to congratulate you on another fascinating connection between end-of-life technology, end-of-life service life things, and agelessness. I think Jason brings something very fascinating to the table, and I think Hugh has pointed that out. And of course, maybe we'll all harvest Hugh's stem cells and pay him for it and get some answers. But in the meantime, I think what's really fascinating in my concluding remarks on this is you've connected the dots, Sharif, and I can understand why people like the Harvard Debating Society view our view our programs and want to become a part of it. And also people from Indonesia and all over the world want to participate in it from the developing world. My feeling is that end of service life, we've talked about end of life technology. We've talked about the new aspect of connecting the dots to humanity that Ageless Partners does through Jason's program. I think it's fascinating. We're beginning to blur the variations of technology and humanity. And of course, the next thing I know, I'll become RoboCop and I'll be mostly a robot, but part human. And then you can test my stem cells. Seriously, on the serious note, just to conclude, I think again, Sharif, you've proved once again that you've encouraged the imagination of our viewers by bringing together a great panel. And I think that where we're heading right now in the here and now, and again, I make that open offer to people out there to contact Sharif so that we can take waste and convert it into a circular economy of all kinds. We can do that on the technology level. On the human level, I think Jason has a lot of the answers. Hopefully he's seeking more, and we'll be able to hear more from him in the future. I love the fact that he's on our panel. And again, I want to thank you for his insights into the idea that it's not just about money, it's about knowledge. He's absolutely right. And of course, Ed is not with us right now, but I think Ed's contribution was phenomenal. So thank you again, Sharif, and look forward to more of these programs. And again, if you want to support the World Talent Economy Forum, you can participate. Reach out to Sharif, reach him on our forum, and come and visit and view more of what we're doing. And we want more people around the world to participate, but we want to create a level playing field for the developing world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marshall, for your continuous support. Jason, what's your concluding remarks for today?
Yes, thank you. And thanks to you and Marshall as well. Appreciate that. Yeah, definitely, there is definitely a openness of new information on our end, and I think there should be. I think that with aging, there's still much more that we don't know than we do, unfortunately. But we know enough that we can start to take action in real time to change our path. So I think you guys brought up a lot of good points. It does have to be something where you're looking at data. Has to be data driven, and we're in the process of building something like that. Actually, if you look at CureDAO, it's a DAO, curedao.org. We're really looking to build something that does take in a lot of data from many sources and then use that to minimize the time to cures. And so it's going to be a long-term thing. It's definitely a very complex software engineering problem for that. Relating to a little bit on Hugh's comments, I think that's really good if you're able to reverse your age that far, even with a single measurement. That's really phenomenal. And I think that whatever you're doing is working if you're getting those kind of results. So really, really great. And it's definitely always being able to quantify whether you're using some kind of epigenetic clock, which there are actually several of, whether you're looking at like a Hovarth clock or a Grimm age or Pheno age. There's really a lot of them out there. And the hard part really is about, if you have a therapy and you implement that therapy, say you're 50 and you implement that therapy and then you turn 51, you could measure across certain clocks a decrease in biological aging. But what we notice is that in other clocks, you don't really see a decrease. So you're really seeing sort of convoluted, obscure results sometimes. And really, if you know which clock correlates to the disease state, you would know which therapy truly works. But I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And we're seeing Altos Labs really dig deep into it. And hopefully they can sort of start to build out new therapies and really hopefully some new aging equipment, just to tie it back into the topic here. I mean, whether that's a deliverable pill or really a shot or some kind of combination therapy, we definitely need them to help contribute to bring us there. So thanks, Sharif. Really appreciate you bringing me on. And
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, World Talent Economy Forum. Yeah, I never heard of it before now. So definitely appreciate you guys having me on.
Okay, sure. Thank you for joining today's sessions. That I just want to share more good news that Energy Ministry from Bangladesh, they also collaborate with World Talent Economy Forums, ICT Ministries, and A2I for Innovations. We are working together. We will develop another innovative conference. It definitely based on public-private partnership. I think Mr. Marshall is a big fan of this public-private partnership. Beside that, 24th June, we are working with Central Bank of Bangladesh and Central Bank of Malaysia. Hopefully, it will be another interesting project. In Singapore, we are developing new leaders for this new world. Hopefully, it's another interesting project. And next year, we have one of the largest event in India. Around 15,000 scientists around the world we are actually inviting in India. We have a very beautiful palace. BBC already start promoting World Talent Economy Forum's initiative with this Nikola Tesla Lab. Professor Adrian, David Levy, and I'm Sharif Uddin. We are working as a chair, and all of you actually speakers and board for World Talent Economy Forum. Beside that, we are taking a lot of initiative for the developing world. Especially we want to develop startup ecosystem, startup village. So all of your contribution is very, very important. We need more of your support, more of your collaboration and partnership. And definitely we are advocate for modern science, engineering, and technology. With your contributions, we can improve more. Thank you, Mr. Jason. Hopefully you can join in the futures with World Talent Economy Forum. We have all of the I want to say largest program, especially on public-private partnership. Beside that, we are organizing this Tesla Lab. It's a real lab. It's real innovations. We are doing innovations. We are uplifting society. Naturally, conference people go and they run. They go for entertainment and move. But we are actually uplifting around 30,000 people in India in grassroots level. And our target through this Tesla Lab, soon we want to engage with 1 million people. And these 1 million peoples, definitely they have lot of problem, lot of challenges, and we will help these communities. I'm very happy how actually I'm getting support from around the world. We need more of your support and more of your collaborations. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. I request all of our audience, please share our content as much as possible with your government, with your corporation, and with academy. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.